bit.ly/find MCC. And then tonight, our featured podcast. Um, who else can it be than the person spearheading this great campaign? A few weeks ago, I interviewed Erika Taylor, founder of Uncorkified, and she's a PR and marketing professional. And she's got more than 16 years international experience and has been focusing on the wine industry since 2017. But many years of experience in marketing, social media, PR, and Erika is and collaborating with us. And a big thank you to her. Tomorrow is Saturday. Um, on Saturdays, we usually have quite a few things going on. So make sure you come early for the morning show, Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, where I'll be live on here. A few more announcements, maybe a few things happening. We're also going to liven up the live streams a bit. We might have some special guests coming on and also some giveaways or prizes. Let's introduce Erika Taylor, founder of Uncorkified.com. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, players. Tune in every week for our latest episode. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Good day, everyone, and welcome. Erika is the founder of Uncorkified. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, you have a busy day and everyone's busy. So I think our listeners will appreciate that you took the time, but they're also going to really like to hear more about you and what you're doing because it's quite interesting. So can you kick off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved with the wine industry?
You can tell by my accent that I am not South African. I grew up in America and lived kind of all over the place. Always was interested in wine. A brief period in college when I drank apple martinis, but we won't talk about that. And then lived in New York City, started a PR company. And ultimately in 2011, I took a trip to India for about a month and ended up falling in love with it and moved there 2 months later. While I was there, wine is definitely not their greatest accomplishment. A lot of whiskey was consumed, but as I kept drinking wine there, it was interesting. I was like, how is wine so different from so many different places? I had no idea. And so I was talking to my mom one day and she told me that I don't know why she was hiding this information from me for the previous 30 years, but she told me that I could actually make a living doing wine. So I started doing some research and looked into WSET, took that course there. And then, which most people don't know, that India actually does have about 40 wine farms.
Wow.
And worked there, decided to come to South Africa for my birthday in, I think it was April 2017, and absolutely fell in love with it. Moved here 2 months later, so clearly that is a trend of mine. If I go on holiday, I move there 2 months later, but I think I'm settled in South Africa. Yeah, so that's how I came here, and I came here specifically for wine.
So Erika, I want to ask you a little bit about India and the wine industry. I mean, you say 40. I mean, I've never interviewed anybody that's been in the Indian wine industry, and frankly, I know nothing about it. So, can you tell us a few interesting things about it? I think everybody would love to hear that.
Yeah, so there actually is a fairly big book that actually it's called The Wines of India, that actually talks about every single vineyard that's there. Nasik, which is about 3.5 hours northeast of Mumbai, is kind of considered the quote unquote Napa of India. It's home to the most popular farm. If you talk about wine in India, everyone talks about Sula. Sula Wine actually has, I think, about 70% of the market share with regards to Indian wine. So they have a huge range. They do a huge festival every year. And the farm that I worked at was just behind them. It's called Soma. And the winemaker there, he had actually worked at Sula for 13 years before buying his own plot of land at the back of the farm and starting to produce wine there. So at the time that I was there, we were doing about 100,000 liters a year. And what's interesting about India is they actually have 2 harvests a year. So the harvest in August, September just is fruit that's just thrown away. And then the fruit that's used for the wine actually comes from the February, March harvest, depending on the weather. Very interestingly. So it gets up to, gosh, it's there sometimes, and they are actually producing Pinot Noir.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, and it's actually pretty good. The rise in 2017, India got their first Master of Wine. So Nal Holland, she is a total champion of wines in India. I worked with her on several things, and there's also a growing sommelier market. Actually, the first person that took me to a wine farm in India, her name is Gargi Kotari, and she is a sommelier in India, and it's probably because of her that I actually really fully got my start. But the culture is definitely rising. So Nal Holland actually released a report as part of her Master of Wine certification on kind of the state of wine in India. And her study actually showed that even people that had never drank wine before for religious or cultural reasons had started to drink wine because it was aspirational. It made you look classy. Even people that a sophisticated thing to do. Working in the tasting room, we had people that had never drank before come in and start tasting wines because, of course, classy. But when you do it at your house with 6 wines, people think you have a problem. So
I mean, that aspirational market or culture is really true. And I think that's why whiskey is popular, because, you know, it's like people feel when they can serve a expensive whiskey that they've arrived. And then seems to be knowledge about the whiskey prices and thing to have the latest. So it's interesting that the wine African producers to actually sell to India.
So that's actually the first place that I got to taste South African wines. Was in some of the finer restaurants there, which is actually ended up how I came here. The Indian market is really difficult for imports because domestic alcohol itself is so expensive. A bottle of not the greatest wine that's a local wine is still going to run you over maybe over 150 rand. So then when you talk about the import costs, it's just astronomical, and it's totally unaffordable unless you're extremely wealthy. But if you are in South Africa, there is one place that I have seen Indian wines on the list, and it is in Franschhoek. And I'm forgetting the name of the restaurant, but I know the bottle of wine very well. I looked at it, but they're charging, I think it was 2,500 rand. So if you really want to try Indian wine, you probably should just go to India. It'll be much cheaper.
Well, what we could do is one evening have a curry and wine tasting, and we'll a pairing, and we'll definitely have an Indian wine with that. I'm comparing that with South African wines. I think that would be quite fun.
I actually did, I work with the South Africans. I actually did an Indian wine tasting at the end of last year from my private collection. I was meant to be in India the whole month of June this year, but obviously that was canceled, and I was meant to bring back enough wines bring back loads of wines for another tasting.
Okay, well, anyway, enough about India. We've gone completely off topic here, but it was so interesting. Uncorkified, what is the history? How did you start it, and what do you do?
Basically just something that is as morphed as I've gotten further into the wine industry. Just me studying, and then it started with me writing about wine, and ultimately having more clients in wine for marketing purposes. So I couldn't think of a good, I felt like all the, Instagram names and websites and, Uncorked and wine and all these other things. I couldn't quite think of of the right words that I wanted to use. So I just invented Uncorkified and life and my clients that I do marketing for in the wine industry.
Excellent. So when did you start this, Erika?
Well, the name didn't come about until maybe, I don't know, the end of 2019, but I think it probably really started in my brain as soon as I started studying for WSET back in India.
Okay. So what services are you providing? Who is your target audience?
So I work with any wine farms, any wine products. I work with clients in the US and the UK as well. So I have some clients in the US. One is a blind wine tasting board game, US dollars, for their kickoff, and wine design companies. Locally, like I said, I work with the South African Sommeliers Association, and currently I'm actually just offering some wine producers just to kind of give them some tips that they can use to up their own marketing without having to pay somebody because they're, you know, struggling to survive at this point.
Would they typically engage you as a consultant, or how would you do that?
So usually I work they kind of hand over all their passwords, and I manage their Facebook, Twitter. I'm very trustworthy. So I handle Facebook, Twitter, Instagram clients so that they don't have to worry about it. So to increase followers, to field questions, to run campaigns, basically anything that happens digitally, I take care of for people in the wine industry.
So you work like what they call in the US a digital marketing agency.
Correct. That is all encompassing.
Okay, and they would pay you. They would engage you on a monthly or a quarterly basis, and then pay you a fee, right? You don't take a commission or anything. You purely fee based.
Yeah, I work on do the beginning of the term, and I am very happy to say that I've been in business for myself for over 10 years, and I have never had a client not pay me.
Well, that's awesome. I think I also think that it depends. You know, the type of clients you're getting in the wine industry are people that are in the business long term. So I don't think unless value up, they're not going to pay you. So I think that is, you're quite safe in that way. Just from a PR perspective, I mean, I know a lot of wine farms used to employ PR people and, you know, get themselves in there. Do you add that? Is that an add-on to your social media management service? Do you do the PR as well?
So I do PR for my US and UK clients. I don't do PR in South Africa because it's quite different than it is. And the UK, you pitch different stories. They write it, they run with it. Whereas in South Africa, it seems to be that the PR person writes the article and then sends it to the outlet, and then they publish that directly. So yes, it is. I was not trained that way, so it is too much of a new model for me to get used to it at 37 years of age.
Okay, well, in a new world, right? I mean, with social media, I mean, you and I had a short discussion about this the other day, is really the new PR, right? Because every single person out there, their attention are on their phones. And I know that, you know, print media and stuff like that still get readers, but, you know, there's the attention of people are really on. Important do you think is this now for our local wine industry, social media?
I think it's massively important, but I also think that because when it started, it was just, hey, this is a free marketing tool, that people maybe didn't fully learn how to completely utilize it. And and it changes every day. I mean, the algorithms change, the best practices change. So you really have to stay on top of what that is. Done that. People, I think I'm actually considered a Zennial. I'm like in between millennial and Gen Z. And we apparently have the attention spans, whereas the younger generation, you have to get their attention within 3 seconds. So I don't know how it can get any faster than that, but people have to learn how to adapt in order to continue to market to a changing demographic.
Well, I mean, isn't the magic word of this whole thing engagement?
Yes, that is the magical, mythical unicorn that everybody seeks out.
Yes, but ultimately, it's like talking to people, and I think you know, sometimes people underestimate the actual ease of communication that social media gives us. You can direct message or almost anybody in the world, as long as you actually have a conversation and not send them, it's like talking to somebody, it's like talking to a girl in the bar. You talk about her, not about you. And I think this is where most marketers make the mistake. They talk about the thing with the person.
1000%. I see so many Instagram accounts that are just buy our wine, shop at our store, do this, do that. And people don't want that. They want to know what's going on. They want to see you being real. They want to know about the ups just as much as the trials and tribulations. And especially right now with everybody struggling, it's a great time to show what wine, to make a plan. People are looking for the kind of realness and not just the cleaned up, beautified version that people want to put out there.
How receptive are your wine community for the services of somebody like yourself? Because sometimes I think a lot of people have this perception of social media niche and let them post on TikTok and Instagram, and they're going to get people buying their product.
That is 1000% a thing. And usually when I start showing people all the different kinds of ins and outs, they realize, okay, wow, that is really a job in and of itself. I think I see a lot of people that just cross post, where you just post it in one place and it goes to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But consumers see that as being lazy, where you can cross post, but it's also just as easy to just post each outlet. And just because a person's young doesn't mean that they fully understand how to market someone, maybe besides themselves and their selfies. It's a very different thing. And when I started in PR, social media didn't exist. So I've had to learn and grow with it every single day. And that is something that a person born in 1990 wouldn't necessarily be able to do.
Exactly. So I think that's quite an important thing that you've been saying, is like, this cross-posting to different platforms by buying cheap software, and then uses the contextual framework of that specific medium. So LinkedIn is there for a different reason than the person that's on there for it's on Facebook or on Instagram. So correct. I think, how do you get your clients see that when you show it to them? Do they actually understand the whole concept of context and how they need to frame their story to actually get the ultimate listener to listen to it?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I happen to use Sprout Social for my postings. So I have tons of, because I've been using it for so long, I have tons of hard numbers and facts and reports that show, here's what happened when you had me, and here's what happened when you didn't have me. And there is a very clear change in what's happening in regards to sales, with regards to exposure, to signups, whatever it happens to be. Concrete evidence that my services are quite helpful. And like I said, I've never had a client not pay me, and so far I have never actually been fired. So I'm going to assume that is just a good thing in my services work.
That's awesome. So if I'm sitting there, I've got quite a fair business. I've got a winery, I have a restaurant, I have a accommodation. I've got a few guest houses, guest cottages on my farm, and I've got a family member running a spa. And I come to you and I say, Erika, can you help me? So how would you typically start? Would you do like an audit? What is the process?
Yeah, so usually we start with an audit and by monitoring competitors in the area. So again, I use Sprout Social, which is very good for tracking competitors. So seeing who's doing things that are successful, what kind of posts are working for them. It's also about getting a clear mission and a clear drive for campaigns, not just randomly posting, but what are we working towards? Are we now, like, so we're in, August, are we building for the summer? Are you doing a specific promotions to get people out to the farm during the pandemic. Like what's their goal, and then let's work backwards from there. Something that you said made me think of this, but a lot of farms separate the winery as one Instagram, the spa is one Instagram, and I normally disagree with that approach, because you want to have the largest audience possible, and you can't expect your potential customer to follow each individual thing. They want to know holistically when they come to the farm or to the restaurant, what other value you offer to them, and why they're going to make a trip out of their home to come all the way down and see you.
Interesting. So what would your best marketing advice be for wine producers? Where's the low-hanging fruit?
I think taking proper photos is, I would have to say, the number one thing that I need to tell wine farms. Don't take, nothing that's low res. Clean off your lens, even if it's just on your phone. Don't have things be shaky. I mean, even if you take a screenshot of something, there's a website called Let's Enhance, and it actually makes it high res for you. So even if that's ways to make it better, and using the proper size of images, depending on the outlet. So Facebook and Instagram are the same. Twitter's completely different. LinkedIn's completely different. It's so easy just to pop your image into correct size. Just look like you put, and that really goes a long way.
Or hire an
hardly young, but yeah, things are done.
All right, so that's quite an interesting one. You are going to do, while we're talking about this, a actual workshop, a free workshop for wine producers next week, right?
I am indeed.
You want to tell?
Yeah, so I some of the wine groups that people were kind of or doing this and that, and I really feel for them. It's not the time to call people out. People are really struggling, and I just was thinking, what could I do to help people that are trying to pay their bills, and marketing is my background, and so I want to I'm going to do this with you next week, so that I can just give some free and easy things that you can do in just 5 minutes a day while you're having your coffee, that can help, and things that you don't need to hire somebody to do. You just need the information, and without you having to search through, okay, does this program work, does that program work? It's just things that are tried and true and free, and anybody can do them, and just to try and help people get as much exposure as humanly possible while we're struggling, of course, domestically to have wine producers survive.
Well, I can't wait to do that, because I think I'm going to learn a lot from you. And I think anybody in the wine industry, not just producers, if you're out there and you've got a restaurant, even if you have a coffee shop in the winelands or anywhere else, come listen to it, because it's going to help in any business, right? Or even if you're just a person looking for a job, that you can find a job through social media. And Erika is going to give such great advice that I'm going to sit there with notes and listen to you. I'm getting all the free stuff I can. So I hope everybody, uses that opportunity.
Yeah,
Erika?
Definitely. I've done a few of them with one-on-one with people, and I've had amazing reviews. So I'm super excited to get kind of everybody in one space and release the knowledge to help them help themselves.
I also think if there's anybody listening to this and they have questions before the actual workshop, they can. We'll leave a link in the description. Just look for the workshop link, and there'll be a place to actually post the questions. We can maybe get you to answer some of those questions in the workshop. So that will be
that'd
awesome.
be great.
So you're a member of the Women in Wine Expo, board member. So what is this, and are you involved in any other women initiatives in the wine industry?
Yeah, so actually, thank you to social media is how I got in is how I started working with the Women in Wine Expo. It was 2018, Yes, it was at the end of 2019. I can't, all the days run together, so it's hard to remember. But she reached out to the woman who started it, reached out to me on Instagram, and we had a chat. And she asked me to be on the board of directors. And it's an international conference that takes place in different places each year. This year we were supposed to have it in May in Georgia, the country, not the state, and which is the birthplace of wine.
Yes,
of course,
that's quite interesting. I did something on the history of wine not a lot.
We're going to host it. Karen McNeil, the author of the Wine Bible, was our keynote speaker. We were sold out. We were all ready to go. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And we were lucky enough that Karen and the venue and everything were able to just push until the next year. So we what we'll be doing in Georgia is we'll have a 2-day of conference talking about different aspects of the wine industry and internationally some of the issues that people are facing. Although I have a feeling that by next year our discussion topics will.
For sure.
And then on the final day, we are doing a Georgian wine masterclass, and we also have international press coming from all over the world, and there'll be the opportunity for our that's being the Georgian Tourism Board. So there's 2 wine festivals that take place around the same time. There's a natural wine one and just a general Georgian wine conference. So yeah.
So here's my question. How can you not love this business?
I do. I love every aspect of it. I seek out more projects all the time.
You know, there's just no other business where you can do something like this, work for 2 days, and they take you on a working wine.
Exactly,
festival.
and it's totally respectable to have a glass of wine at 9 o'clock in the morning. What other job can you say that?
That's true. So, any other women's initiatives that you are planning or busy with?
Yeah, so I actually am busy working on kind of launching a Women in Wine South Africa initiative. After Women's Day, cohesive group. There's many small groups, but we're in the process of many things. I have a 4-hour call after this actually to finalize everything. So that we're going to have students involved and people in all different aspects, not just winemakers. We're going to have winemakers, sommeliers, tasting room staff, wine students, any woman and any will be represented, so that we can, even people that want to enter the wine industry. I think a lot of people think, oh, I have to be a sommelier or I have to be a winemaker, but they're just in the wine industry. And we want people to know all of their options so that they can make the best decision that makes them happy and keeps food in their bellies.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. So talking about that, you're also the Cape Town coordinator of the South African Sommelier Organization. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, actually it was right as soon as I moved here, I was looking for just I didn't know how to get into wine. It's hard to meet new people, especially when you work from home. And so I saw online that there was a Nebbiolo tasting. Actually, I remember it was my first professional tasting, and I had no idea what to expect. And I was completely overwhelmed and knew I was completely out of my league with these kinds of people that we were tasting with. But it also was like a bug, and you just you wanted to learn more and know more. So I started going to more tastings and started working, actually doing some marketing for and their businesses. And just over the course of time, we became good friends. And now one of those people is now the chairman of the South African Sommeliers Association, Barry Schofield. The rest of the board, I work with them during non-pandemic times, planning tasting. And this year alone, SASA has certified 98 new junior sommeliers all over South Africa, which is a huge feat, especially during a pandemic. Wow. So they're doing a lot of good for raising the level of hospitality as for restaurants and for wine farms, and a great organization. And we do, we're doing actually on Monday, we're doing a roundtable discussion of light styled reds in South Africa.
Wow.
And that will be virtual. We'll have, so we've got a winemaker, we have two sommeliers and a wine cellar that I think are on the panel. So should be quite interesting.
That sounds very interesting. I'm very when you moved from India and you came to South Africa and you know you're explaining the story of how you got involved, were you surprised by anything in the industry? Maybe you know how did you find the level of professionalism in the industry, and was it surprising to you or not?
Well, I think coming from India, I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, wine in India has really only gotten kind of a foothold in the last 20 years. So it's a very young wine industry. And everyone's just kind of trying to, you know, figure it out as they go along. When I came to South Africa, it was much more organized. There were organizations for different things. I did find that it was a fantastic way to meet new people when you move to a new country, because wine is, and when you can, you know, tell silly, you know, nerdy wine jokes and you find your people that, you know, you just want to nerd out with, sit and watch pruning and soil videos every time she comes over. So when you find somebody else that's just as interested in rewatching the same pruning video for the 15th time, that is a definite bonding. I found my people. But yeah, I had nothing to compare it to, so I don't think I was surprised.
Well, now that you tell me this, I have a feeling. Are you a closet winemaker?
I did with Barry Schofield, the chairman of SASA, and three of the other Soms, Esme and Isabella. We made a wine in 2018, and then in 2019, that was for a wedding. And then last year we made a wine, and hilariously, the wine is called Where Redheads Go to Die, because I have red hair. And I wanted to punch everyone in the face that day. It was 40 degrees outside in Botrivier, not a cloud in the sky, and during load shedding. So there was no air conditioning, no reprieve from the heat. And I tried to sit in the shade. I did everything I could. So sadly, the wine has my name this year, but it was not my winemaking choices. Maybe one day, but for now, I'll just be a harvester.
Well, that's what they say. Welcome to Africa. So,
that was probably my worst.
The coronavirus, I mean, this has been the whole thing this year. And
I think that's a hard question for me, because I've worked for myself for 10 years. Coronavirus didn't really change anything about my business. Still work from home, still doing wine things. I think that and not just everything's all fine and dandy, but just people are more with them, and it's taken a turn for what used to be these, you know, nice, just manicured, you know, Instagram feeds and this and that, and it's kind of going away from that. I mean, again, you still have to take a nice picture, but you know, the story needs to be more real. There's more about content creation, not just you know, hashtag Wine Wednesday with a selfie of you drinking wine. Nobody cares. They want to know, you know, give them some value into it. What is, tell me something interesting about the picture that I'm looking at. And I think that before all of this, it had kind of fluffy, and now it's returning to be a little bit more real. And I hope that the wine farms will adapt and keep that trend up.
do you though think though that you would be more conservative in your business approach? I'm talking about your own business, because of the fact, you know, if you think about it, you really have almost like this nomad lifestyle where you can pick up your laptop and the things that has changed for all of us. I've always said that, you know, doesn't matter where you are, far from family or whatever, or you, from a client, you're just an overnight flight away. But unfortunately, we're shocked that overnight flight might be months away.
And I am so happy that my mom moved here with me as well. And we live together, and she's my best friend. So repeating Zoom calls going on. But yeah, this is the first. I was actually in the States in March, and I actually only made it back to South Africa a week before lockdown. But that was the last time that I saw my family. And like I said, I was supposed to be in India this year and Georgia this year, and then we're going to go back to India for holidays. So this is the first time that I on an international flight, and I know that that's kind of first world problems, but you know, you just get into the new normal, and you know, looking forward to what's you know, it's not going to be forever, and planning trips for, you know, the first celebration of when that is. But I think trying to adjust, but now it's just kind of, okay, this is just how it is, and you just wear a mask and wash your hands and sanitize stuff and go about your business.
It's unbelievable how adaptable we are. So your wine journey has been quite interesting. I mean, it's taken you all over the world. So what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Going to know everything, and there's always something new. I've completed my WSET level 3. I'm hoping to start diploma. I was hoping to start this year in September, but I believe it's been pushed back to June due to coronavirus. I'm also the certified specialist of wine, which is a program internationally recognized, but based out of the US. And I just, you can never, even I think Jancis Robinson doesn't know everything. It's constantly changing every single day, and it's growing. And yeah, the more I learn, the more I realize that I know nothing.
Yeah, this is true. So I ask everyone I interview the same thing, and it's to give your favorite wine quote or your very own wine quote.
So it's I wish I could take credit for it, but it is, it's not from me. It's from the movie Sideways. And no, it's not, I'm not drinking any Merlot. It's actually Virginia Madsen's quote about wine. And she just, with such joy, she's just like, it's growing, it's changing. A bottle of wine that you open today is going to taste different than if you opened it tomorrow or the next day. And every single bottle tells a story. And I certainly find that in my own personal life. You know, I have friends that are biodynamic winemakers, and so we always have to check, is it a root day? Is it a fruit day? Is it a leaf day? Whatever it happens to be. And there is an app called When Wine that tells you if it's a root day or a leaf day or a fruit day. So if your wine should taste better or worse. But it's so true. I have, you know, I buy cases of the wines that I love, and there are days that it reminds me of the first time that I tried it, and there are days that it's a little bit more meh. It also depends on who are you opening it with, what's the story, is it a celebration wine, or is it I'm sad, I need to drink wine?
So what you're telling me is it's actually not you tasting the wine, it's the wine tasting you.
That's a good quote. Yes, that is very true.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way. That's quite interesting. Erika, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, we've almost spoken for an hour, so that's quite nice. And if people are sitting out there and they want to, you know, they want to engage you to come and do. I mean, if I was a wine producer listening to this, I would be looking for your number immediately and trying to get hold of you to come do this. Or because I mean, if I look at just most people, their social media is horrendous. They need you. So how did they get hold of you?
You could always find me on my favorite Instagram at just Uncorkified, or on my website, which is uncorkified.com. So fairly easy to find me. Okay,
thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to actually hear you educate us all on Wednesday. That is Wednesday the 19th, right? Yes.
Yes.
And
10 a.m.
10 a.m. 10 a.m. on Wednesday the 19th. The links will be in the description. Erika Taylor will be there giving us all the best information for free. So if you're not on there, it's pretty stupid not being there. I'm going to be there with listening to you. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description.